forward and introduce themselves, say where they're from.
Paul Stewart, Tunnarong, and my son, Marley.
Bonnie Point Gippsland, December 22, 1840. Mount Rouse, 1842.
Numpton Gippsland, October to December 1840.
Western District, 1839.
1837. 3 killed.
20 shot by station owners, cooks and shepherds.
40 unknown men were killed by Angus McMillan's men.
Angus McMillan and his men took a heavy toll of Aboriginal lives. 9 killed.
61 killed. 78 killed.
1 killed by J.F. Francis.
Almost all Hungoot people butchered.
Mount Bainbridge, 3 were shot.
7 poisoned on Henty Brothers property.
And there are a whole lot more that we don't know about that haven't been recorded yet. Your hands into the ochre. Clean your hands with the sacred ochre from Wurundjeri land. Thank you, each and every one of you, for coming out and sharing the load. Thank you, Auntie Di, for your presence and your continued resistance and survival. We can put our hands together for Auntie Di.
And we are joined by Victorian NAIDOC Chair and RGR fam member, Stacie Piper. Morning, Pipes.
Morning, Troy. How are you?
I'm really good. I got a little bit teary the last kind of 10, 15 minutes. I think
You enjoy our...
a little bit of Mao Power and Archie Roach and Christine Arnoux and everything going on. And huge last 24 hours, but still another huge 24 hours ahead. What's going on in your world?
Yeah, well, I can concur with that one. I've been a little bit emotional listening to you this morning. Just sort of celebrating the flag win. But obviously, in all truth-telling, we have to acknowledge that the government now, with money, they now own the copyright. Anyway, that's okay. It's free for us to use. It's free for us. I'm wearing tried to find my flag T-shirt. Couldn't find it, but now I can wear it and not feel weird about wearing it because, anyway. And congratulations to Laura Thompson and the mob at Clothing the Gap with all their hard work over the last 2 years campaigning. That was a big, thing to undertake while you're running a business, a very successful business, but also, I stepped into the inquiry in Canberra in Parliament on Zoom just to answer questions as NAIDOC, and it was really intense, really nerve-wracking.
What was it like? As in, you were getting questioned. Was there support or no support with the questioning? Or was it kind of quite neutral?
It was very just, very just... how has it affected Victorian NAIDOC, with having the... And I suppose it was hard for me because I wanted to be in there to support the cause and give, evidence that's going to support that, not just something. And for NAIDOC, we still had permission from Harold Thomas to use the flag on our merch initially before the actual WAM clothing licensing debacle. But because we don't profit, We actually we're a community group, and we just get them made for mob so that they can buy them at cost price, basically, and then any tiny little profit would subsidise ball tickets. So we're not in the business of making money on merchandise. But yeah, it was still very intense, and getting questioned by Parliament solicitors and that sort of thing. It was good experience.
yeah. 3 years is a long time, but I feel like that there's, and in my short life of being alive, I mean, how many wins? I mean, as much as we it's not fully completed. I mean, like you said, the government still owns it, but it's still, it's like a quarter wins is as good a win as we we usually get.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting. I'm not going to lie, because I felt the emotion that you were feeling, probably more so though when you were talking about it, because I'm not sort of skeptical, but I'm definitely used to the government and their ways. And I think that, because they're not having Australia Day festivities down in the city, they've got to have a good news story, So they're doing it on Invasion Day, which is, again, taking the focus off what this day is about. And now it's about a flag that we've been fighting for 2 years. But it's all media. It's still a win. Don't get me wrong. My hat has to flip back and forward because I have to maintain and hold the ground for, our cause and for truth telling.
I think sometimes, and I'm just echoing what I hear from idiots, is like, well, what else? What else? If we're going to change the date, what else do you want? And it's annoyingly true. There is a bucket load of things that need changing, and I feel like that comment, as much as it's insensitive, it's actually so true. Yeah. Do you know what? What else? What else do you want to do while we're here? Because let's tick them off.
Yeah. There's a lot to do.
Yeah. Don't say what else is there to tick off. Don't do them. Get cracking, because there is there's so many hats that you put on, and there's, while this is exactly right, the flag's free, yet it doesn't stop. It doesn't go stop, pause, let's wait a year to tick off the next thing, roll on and bring up everything else that is attached to it and is entwined to it. But let's talk, I'm going to speak to Laura tomorrow. I'm going to have Laura on tomorrow.
Ooh, how exciting.
Yeah. Which is brilliant. So we'll talk more about the flag. Ooh.
Oh, your doorbell.
Someone's in the RGR lounge right now, and I don't know who it is because the screen's on it. But anyway, say hi if it's you. I'm supposed to turn that notification off.
Who is it?
I don't know. It's a mystery. Benny Clark's in the house, but it's not him.
Hey, Benny.
Hey, talk about the dawn service. There may be people out there that don't even know there was a dawn service. How long's the dawn service been happening? How long's it been a thing?
Yeah, so this will be the 4th year. And the video that you just saw, or everyone just saw and that you just played, was from 2020. That was the 2nd year. And then the 3rd year, last year, we did it when we'd had the lockdowns just lift. So, but it was very different. So the video shows how it started and how we like it. And that's, very just people rocking up, sitting up on King's Domain on the hill at the resting place with our ancestors that had been repatriated 27 years ago. So there's a history there to that place. And Uncle Jim Berg, so he took, Melbourne University and Museums Victoria to the Supreme Court and won to get our ancestors repatriated, which were fallen warriors through the invasion and massacres, and those remains were taken and kept in storage. So he had 38 of those remains returned, and they're buried at King's Domain. That was 27 years ago, and Ani Marge Tucker was there. There were a lot of people there who were very prominent, and they do a walk every year. So in November, they do a walk from the State Library to King's Domain, reenacting that. So we've got to probably get that happening as well, especially on the 30th anniversary, which will be in a few years. But yeah, so 2019, Lydia started it Lydia Thorpe, by gathering people and just sitting up on that hill with the ancestors while the sun's rising. And we do a farewell chant. Well, we read out all of the massacres, and then only the documented ones from University of Newcastle. So there's evidence of these, like very good evidence around these ones. And there's obviously a lot more that have been undocumented, but we read them out. We get mob and young ones to read them out while the sun's rising. We sing them off through ceremony. So the Jiris and Mandis sing our farewell chant to heal their spirit while we've got the smoke going, and we have the fellas there, the fire keepers. And then we do an ochre ceremony. So we rub our hands in white ochre, which is like a cleaning of our hands. And then you grab a gum leaf and put it into the fire, and that's a symbol of, coming together. There's more allies than mob there. There's more wider community, or white fellas, for a lack of a better word, than us. So, obviously, but it's huge. Hundreds and hundreds of people turn out at 5 a.m. and then we leave about probably 7:30. So, this year's the first one online. So we wanted to gather, but I did do a little post. For me, I was thinking, the Australian Open's still going ahead and all these other things are still going ahead. But I just did a post and wanted to get the feel of how mob are feeling. And majority of people, I just said, who feels comfortable going to an event outdoors with a few hundred people? We've got over 2,000 people registered for this event online. So we could have ended up without, a lot of people gathering.
Right.
So and a lot of our community are either unwell, there's a lot of sorry business, or they're just not feeling comfortable. And so I thought, what's the point in dragging everyone into the city? Let's just get up at 5:30 a.m. in our lounge rooms and come together and still be there and still honour our old people.
A dawn service to the general public would mean responding to, you think of the dawn services that we've had for so long here in Australia's colonial history, but it's about a war. It's about people, honouring the fallen. That's very true that's what this is about. But describe the war that First Nations people have faced, and how that connects. The similarities, I'm trying to parallel people's translation. Go, well, what's the war then? What are you talking about?
I suppose what Uncle Jim talks about, so we interviewed him last week and filmed him up at the resting place, and we laid flowers. So we were still there, even though we can't be there on tomorrow morning. He talks about his, I suppose, not vision, but the reason he did that years ago, for many reasons. But obviously he talks about the fact that the Shrine of Remembrance is just, a stone's throw away, and it lists every woman and man who fought in Vietnam, Korean War, Afghanistan, and there's no honouring of, first of all, there's no honouring of our soldiers who actually went and fought in those wars, which, they fought for a country that won't fight for them, as Ziggy Ramo would say. And then there's a whole other story around that. When they returned to, families that were broken apart and, promises that were broken, and they couldn't celebrate with their comrades in pubs, because they had camaraderie when they were out on the war field, I guess, and then came back to the suppression. But that's the Anzac story. So here it was like, okay, well, there was another war that happened, and people refer to it as the frontier wars. But there's, a lot of, how it is. As time goes on, we've got to just evolve. But I don't know if frontier really represents it too well, because it wasn't a war that we wanted.
Sure, it wasn't like meet you in the middle of the battlefield. Let's go.
Yes, we weren't like. We were warriors, obviously, but it was something new for us, and we were basically trying to. We did a lot of, just down in Goodnichimara country, Western Victoria, there was a 17-year Umarella War where they resisted and fought 17 years. That's a long time, and won. There's lots of different stories around the country of resistance and wins, as we were talking about this morning. And I suppose the fact that we're still here as a mob is a win. And even in society, people thinking and trying to deny us of our Aboriginality, they're the depths of the what people take away from us. And that's the fact that we're here because they survived these wars, But yeah, these were wars that happened on this soil, and in Victoria particularly, there were 1,186 documented massacres. That's not people, that's massacres.
Sure.
So there's a lot more people within those. You know, one of them was 200 people in Western Victoria on the beach there. So we read those out. And it is very emotional, but it's just, you know, if we don't need other people to do it for us. We're doing it. And we have been calling for a day of mourning. Our ancestors have been on January 26 from 1938. And while Australians were celebrating this new, you know, having their Australia Day festivals. And where we hold the dawn service at King's Domain, there is, and the ancestors resting there, every year, the last 3 years, there's been an Australia Day festival that kicks off about 10 a.m. right next to us, you know? It's still so bizarre.
In 1938, did you say 1938? In 1938, the Australia Day was being celebrated?
Well, it
wasn't on Jan 26 then, was it?
No, well, so Australia Day was officially in July 1994. It became, you know, a calendar event. So we've been marching way before that. But there were celebrations going on, whether it was Federation or, you know, but there were, you know, there's images of 1938 people celebrating through the streets of Sydney, and you had Uncle William Cooper and Uncle Jack Patton and a number of others from the Fakatsi group just standing there with their day of mourning sign saying that they, you know, there were probably 10 people just protesting. And from there it built from there. Each year they were, you know, resisting these celebrations. And I can't remember exactly what they were, but it could have been something to do with Federation.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Have you fallen across the story of Bunjil Naruk? Uncle Wayne Thorpe?
Yeah, I have.
I read it yesterday. It was so powerful. And, I mean, I've just put up the resource on the chat now. But it was about Bunjil Naruk. It was about the signals that he sent and his tribes sent when Captain Cook was arriving to the shore, about sending smoke signals, and then they sent fire signals. They put fires to alert people up north. So there was actually recorded communication, and it's going back to this kind of, it wasn't a war. It was like, there was clear communication. You're not welcome here in an Indigenous way. So maybe Captain Cook didn't get it, but that's a load of rubbish. He would have known by all their other invasions that they did that there's certain symbols that mean don't go on that land.
Yeah.
But he already knew there was anyway. But it's a crazy story. And I just find these kind of resources quite helpful. It was super helpful to me. And where can people go to get resources? I guess, is it up to... I mean, the load's heavy for First Nations people anyway. Where can people get resources like this? Because I got this from Lisa Thorpe. Like, people don't have internal comms like we do.
You got the internal there. Lisa. Yeah, she's in the know, obviously. And it's like, even some of our... Well, I hear you.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the case with everything. You know, we've got so much information that needs to be consolidated. And even with tomorrow, I'm finding that a lot of people kind of have their own, you know, some people are calling it survival day, or some people are having a reflection day, and, you know, some mob. And I don't know, I feel like, you know, some people might look at the ones calling it Invasion Day or Abolish Australia Day as radical, but, you know, it's only radical because, you know, we've got this knowing. We've been, you know, learning this from our families since the day we were born, or people have been learning it for a long time. And if you're new to that, you're thinking, what are they talking about? How could you abolish Australia Day? But it's really, it even changed the date. It doesn't sit right with me anymore, because you're just going to change it to another date. It still represents the same thing.
Explain that.
Yeah, so people, you know, still doing change the date campaigns, which, you know, change the date of Australia Day, not the date to celebrate January 26th. But I mean, it's the truth telling that needs to be told, you know, shared and understood. Changing a date is not going to just fix everything because you're just celebrating genocide and massacre on another day. Really.
Explain celebrating genocide and massacre. How is genocide and massacre being celebrated by people by having an Australia Day?
Well, I guess Australia Day.
How does it connect for people that don't know what they're doing? How does it connect?
In layman's terms, it's sort of, I don't know, Australia Day represents this, well, maybe patriarchal kind of, the Aussie flag, it's this newly found culture, which, don't get me wrong, I think Australia is great. Australia is a great country. And I definitely feel we're one of the luckier places, in the world. There's a lot of terrible stuff going on in the world, and that's where my worldview really shifts as I go along because, I'm starting to look at not just country, not just what happened, but country and the planet and the globe. And but yeah, really, I think Australia Day as it is, you go into the supermarket and it's just these plastic flags everywhere and, ain't good for the environment. And it's just, I just find it really wanky, sorry. And it represents invasion, the time when Australia came here settled with no treaty and just, terra nullius, it's uninhabited, we've discovered it, and then let's just go and kill a heap of families so that we can settle and create this new world and forget that they were even here. Does that help a bit?
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I mean, you're not. I know you're the Victorian NAIDOC chair, but you are also an individual person. So I know you got to be careful a little bit about what you say. But at the same time, you're you, and there's people here. I mean, is the journey about getting to a certain spot as quickly as possible, whatever that looks like? Our finish line or our end line, is it ever finished? Because again, the voices, the white Australia that's tired of this change, of them being under attack or their culture being under attack or whatever else. But okay, well, if changing the date's not going to work, and now you're saying abolish the date, that's pretty insensitive. You're saying that you really love Australia Day. Why are we abolishing the date? It's like,
but it's not saying abolish. It's saying come up with something that is, about all of us, that's inclusive. And, once the truth, and I know, as I said, I know that sounds radical, but, the government need to be held accountable. It's a system issue. And I think a lot of people on Invasion Day in the past have said abolish the system, not actually Australia. No one's talking about Australians or Australian people. They're talking about these events that have been going on since, just overlooking the truth. And it's really, I don't see it as like a gendered end date. Let's write up a plan. It's about truth telling. The education system is getting so much better. I interviewed Uncle Jack Charles last week as well. And, he's so sweet and talks about we celebrate our survivability, and it's like we do, Unc. But, he's elderly and he's still finding out things about his life that have been hidden from him. And that has affected his entire life and experience. So while everybody else goes, and I'm sick of hearing about this, well, that's where people talk about privilege. Get off your privilege pedestal and remember that there's people who are still suffering trauma and need healing. And so unless we sit down and teach, the kids are learning. The future's in good hands, I'm telling you. The education system is doing great things. And I've got Irish heritage. I've got, friends of mixed cultures. I've got friends who are refugees. And I just think, there's a lot of issues here that stem from, I don't know, racism across cultures. And refugees locked up for 8 years in the Mantra just down the road. There's a lot of
Yeah.
issues here. And I just feel like celebrating, pretending that we've got this, really awesome chukka shrimp on the Barbie culture. I just don't think.
I know. I think that's spot on, Stace, and the clarity you gave really helps. Go, yeah, we'd like to celebrate, but let's admit, firstly, that we're not there yet, and that's okay. But yeah, while we're pretending that we're not fractured, is not the way to go either, and that's what kind of Australia Day is about for a lot of people. And I read a comment yesterday, I don't know what I was flicking through, but someone was like, people either just celebrate but are deliberately ignorant. And I felt like that was starting to become more the normal. And that's kind of quite historical since colonial inception. There's been a lot of decisions being made whilst turning a blind eye and dealing with it afterwards. And I mentioned it earlier about, Jabberong trees going and then going, whoops, too late.
Undoable.
Too late. Undoable, though. Undoable. The sites in Western Australia getting blown up. Undoable.
Sorry, irreversible, should I say? Not undoable.
Sorry, irreversible. And that's so when it's talked about that, this is a great country, and I just find that, and they're the ones at the TV shows, but that's about, it's just happening subtly within community comms through relationship building, the work that you do dealing with just Victorian bureaucratic rubbish, just to get things over the line, simple things.
They put barriers up. They are there. The barriers go up, and we got to jump those hoops, I tell you. Oh,
triple amount of hurdles in a same length race than the normal person. And I think, you just touched on it before, I think unless you are hanging out with some Aboriginal people, you don't know, and a lot of people don't have Aboriginal mates to be able to get in close and find out. But I love it. A lot of my friends have popped up, and I might be especially in Geelong, I might be the only Aboriginal person they even know. But I'm certainly not the most fractured person going out there or can represent my life and go, this is, I told ya, look at my life. So I get it. People go, no, he's fine. But this is not what we're talking about. Yeah, there is some people that have been brought up differently, but
we're community-minded. We're mob-minded people. And look, I've had to do lots of healing over the years.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and people who knew me in the past, I just sort of, just was a little bit carefree and, but I think now it's I want to, my mum, my aunties and uncles and my grandmother and, my nan was born on Wurundjeri mission. She was born into slavery, which people don't want to hear.
That's your mum, yeah.
That's my mum's mum. My nan was, I was 23 when my nan passed away. So I spent a lot of time with her. She taught me how to play cards, and I spent a lot of time at her house because, I had, things growing up. There was things going on at home. So I would spend weeks on end at her place, so I'd get her stories, and she was happy. She was actually a hilarious woman and saw the bright side of life, but she did grow. She was born on a mission, and she was born, when this 1967 referendum came round, she was finally able to, recognised as human. But my mum was 19 when that came round. So my mum's whole education, there was no health or education provisions for her and her siblings till after 1967 when when things changed. So my mum didn't get an education. So I'm the first generation to, get these opportunities. So we're playing catch up. Our inheritance was taken. They were great workers out on Wurundjeri mission, but they were working for food rations. They weren't working for money. So my mum didn't get an inheritance when, I don't get an inheritance. We're playing catch up. Uncle Jack was born, and Uncle Larry Walsh, when they were removed. So Uncle Larry was removed as a newborn, and Uncle Jack was removed at 4 months old, and Uncle Jack Charles, and he was given a criminal record at 4 months old.
I remember Uncle Larry's story, hearing about that.
Yeah, a criminal record for needing care, a literal
for being
criminal record. Yeah,
a conviction.
So they had no hope.
He had a conviction. He was born with a conviction on his record.
4 months old.
It's crazy. Look up,
So
everyone
they had
look up
no
Larry
hope.
Walsh.
Once they're in that system, that's it. You're a criminal for life. And they had to just fend for themselves, and people look, oh, they're just doing this and that. It's like, that's how the system was set up. It's, yeah.
Carissa, I'll tell you how current it is. Carissa struggles to comfortably walk into a shop in Melbourne because of what she faces up in Katherine and the way she gets treated in Darwin. And if anyone's been to Darwin that's Aboriginal or dark skin,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's rough. And she carries this walking around. I say, come on, let's go through Maya or let's go to the shops. And she's mentioned it many times. She says, I don't like the way that person is looking at me. And I go, come here. And I don't ignore it, but I certainly don't pay it enough attention. And it's very, you just remind me of it. It's very real.
Very real.
It's very
and
current.
That's why
yeah.
I can actually accept my privilege, even though I grew up in, Aboriginal commission housing and poverty. I can still accept my privilege as a fair-skinned Aboriginal woman and not have to deal with that. So that's why I can use my voice. Whereas Carissa, Carissa, look at her. She's beautiful and gorgeous. But Melbourne is progressive. I think a lot of people around the country look at us and go, oh, they're just, they're living in a different world. They don't get it. And Carissa and I have had this conversation really. We need to keep digging more into that. But there's something in that because we are, Wurundjeri people. So I'm a Wurundjeri person. I come from people like William Barak and Simon Wonga. And these are the men because they were our Nuttingators, our leaders. And they became great diplomats. So we didn't exactly, we learnt the English language and tried to learn their ways. And Melbourne was settled very differently than different parts of the country. So I come from a line of diplomats and settler relations. So that's my privilege. So I've got to do that. I've got to use that to help support the Carissas of the world who live in Melbourne and support the mobs who are vulnerable.
Yep. Dawn service, give us the details. What's happening? How do people tune in?
Okay, so
tomorrow morning.
We've got it on the Troy will be the tech extraordinaire tomorrow morning at 5:30 a.m. But maybe get up a little bit earlier to get yourself a coffee and settle in. We actually want to encourage people, if it's possible, to open your curtains so you can feel or see the sunrise while we're holding the virtual service, and maybe get some gum leaves if they're nearby. So 5:30 a.m. we'll sort of start. And we'll have some footage from last year because we couldn't miraculously curate new content in a week or 2 weeks. But we did get some new footage. So we'll have mixes of last year. It's going to be very raw, very just, grassroots raw, nothing too overpackaged or flash. It's just how we like it. We like our real voices. So, there'll be some interviews that we've filmed with Uncle Jim Berg and Uncle Jack Charles. We'll have Arnie Joy's Welcome to Country from last year, which he's given us permission to use. We have just some imagery from the last 3 years of Dawn services. We'll have the chant, which is, again, that Wurundjeri song singing off the spirit of the ancestors. And a few other bits and pieces, but it'll go for about 50 minutes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And so on the Victorian NAIDOC website, can we share the links? It'll be the Victorian NAIDOC website and the Facebook page. That one's pretty easy. It'll cross-stream to our Victorian NAIDOC Facebook page.
Yes.
And that's about it, really. We just wanted to mark the day and, it might one day turn into a day of mourning because that's what William Cooper and the other ancestors called for in 1938. We don't always have to have a dawn service, but it started that way. And, who knows? It might just become a day of mourning for us and then another day of celebrations.
Yeah, I've got the link here. It's the link tree, which will host the stream link once I put it up. It's in the link there. And I'm going to... is that all right? I'm going to stream it on RGR here too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'll stream it. Yep. I'll cross stream it here, and then once the dawn service is finished, we'll start RGR. So a bit of a later time for RGR tomorrow because I need to concentrate on the stream, but I do want to share it to as many networks in this RGR fam
Thanks, Troy.
Oh, that's
and thank
all right.
you, RGR fam. I'm part of the fam and I always love having chats with you guys. And, you know, it's hard to get up here and be real and raw, but I think, you know, that's how we got to be. We've got to role model it to our kids. Fenna in the background there.
Fenster! What are you doing?
Hey, Uncle.
Oh, she's going to the toilet. I miss her live, very raw commentary. Even those few days you get to the commentating for her live. I don't like that cup because it fell over before.
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right.
Oh, I tell you, you've got a lot of patience with her too. I mean, when we visited over Christmas, it was so good.
The doorbell. She enjoy, I got to ring the doorbell. Go ring the doorbell.
That's why when the doorbell just rang, I went, what? Got this trigger.
Hey, lots of people are going to kick off. Everyone's sending you so much love and support. Thanks for the chat. Thanks for the information. So you can catch the dawn service tomorrow. We'll be all up nice and early. You can catch it here on the RGR Twitch channel, but you can also catch it on the Victorian NAIDOC website. I think from a activism point of view, if you're wondering how to infect your community, have a chat tomorrow about things that we've talked about today, and this has been recorded. If you want to just shove this interview in someone's face tomorrow and go, you know what, I think abolish the date, and someone says, what do you mean? Show them this interview. This is the Victorian NAIDOC chair and Wurundjeri human, Stacie Piper, telling you what's up. So if you need to have that as a backbone, it'll be up on the YouTube channel in later today. Piper, big love. Thanks for jumping on last minute, and I'll speak to you in about 35 minutes probably.
Yeah, on to the dawn service,
Onto the
brother.
dawn service.
Thanks, guys.
That's
Bye,
cool.
RGR fam.
See ya.